How's going, guys? Welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the imperfect monster and built harem in the High School of the Dead, Part 3. Huge shout out to ShadowWolf125767 for this story. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Naruto stayed silent as he felt his body go numb. Since the start of the outbreak he hasn't seen his mother, Kushina. But now, after days of not seeing her, she was in front of him. Naruto was speechless. Kushina took a hesitant step forward, unable to believe what she was seeing before her. Realizing that it wasn't her imagination, she took off running towards Naruto, wrapping her arms around, engulfing him in a hug. Naruto wrapped his arms around her as she cried into his shirt, unable to produce a word. The two were engulfed in their own world to see that Yuriko left to go see her daughter, Rei, and left the two of them alone. The mother and son remained silent, letting their bottled emotions out, and in a long time Naruto cried as he hugged Kushina closer, not willing to part with her. "Ka-san, please don't leave me again," Naruto said as he tried to will himself stop the tears from falling from his face anymore. Feeling a soft hand against his right cheek, saw Kushina gently wipe away the tears from her son's face as she gave Naruto a soft smile that made him feel at ease. "Naruto-kun, it is okay, Ka-san will never leave you," Kushina said as she stepped forward, placing a soft kiss near the edge of his lips. Naruto, noticing where the kiss landing, he looked away, not wanting his mother from seeing him embarrassed, with a small blush. As he did that, he never notices blood stain growing on the right shoulder of his shirt. But the redhead woman did. She quickly grabbed Naruto's left arm and with a serious look in her eyes. "Naruto, what happened to your shoulder? Was it one of them?" Kushina questioned Naruto in a whisper, making him to look at her in the eye, and just said, "No, it wasn't. I got injured when I was escaping from those zombies, so don't worry about it." Noticing the look on his mother's face told him that she wasn't done with him. "I don't care. We are going to get it checked out and get it taken care of, got it?" "Got it," Kushina said with a very sharp edge to her voice, telling him that if he tried anything she will make sure he will be in a world of hurt. The only thing that Naruto could do was mutter, "Yes ma'am," making Kushina grin widely before she opened the door to the Takagi's estate to find someone to check on her Naruto. Around the same time, "Ka-san!" Rei screamed in disbelief as she saw her mother walk into her room. Without a second thought she leaped from her bed and hugged her mother in midair. Both women ignoring the fact that she was only in her panties, leaving everything open to see for anyone to see. "How did you find me?" Rei asked how Kiriko ended up here of all place. Heck, she thought her mother would back at home with other survivors or evacuated already. "I meet a very nice young man who told me where you and Kakashi-kun were," Kiriko said, but didn't say anything about keeping him tied to a bed. Rei looked confused for a moment. Who would know where they were, let alone alive? Then it hit her. "You mean Naruto-kun?" Rei said in shock. "Is he okay? Is he here?" Kiriko's sweat dropped as she was slightly taken back at the sudden questions about the blonde male. It wasn't like they were close, right? "Rei honey, he's fine dash." Kiriko tried to calm down her daughter, just then said blonde was being dragged in by a redhead demon through the front door, all the while arguing. "Ka-san, I told you that I am fine. And I told you that you are going to get that check out." "Well, I don't care dash, Naruto-kun." The two stopped arguing when they both heard another voice coming from the second floor. Looking upwards towards the voice, saw a relived looking, almost naked, Rei leaning over the railing of the second floor, giving the son and mother a full view of her bountiful mountains. Naruto and Kushina brain shut down as the two tried to comprehend what the hell was going on. Rei soon felt that their eyes somewhere else, looking down realized what was going on, and did what any girl would do. She screamed and retreated into her room. Kushina looked towards her son with a slight eye twitch and asked, "Naruto-kun, do you know that girl?" Yes, but not like that," Naruto said, seeing that Kushina was already suspecting that their relationship was more than it was at the moment. Then what's your relationship with that girl?" Kushina demanded. There is no way that she was giving her son up to just anyone. Heck, there's no way that she was giving him up, period. "We went to the same school and been traveling together since this all started." "Excuse me. Now is not the time to be arguing." Kiriko decided to step in. Look, Uzumaki-san, first I have to apologize for my daughter, lack of clothes. Kiriko bowed, followed by Kushina. I'm sorry too, and call me Kushina, I feel old when I get called Uzumaki-san. Kushina said with a grin, making Kiriko chuckle at Kushina. Only if you can call me Kiriko. Deal! Kushina said as the two shook on it while Naruto watched silently, enjoying that his mother was able to talk to someone else beside him and the Takagi family. Naruto-kun! As Naruto didn't turn as he felt a little dread about what was going to happen, then all he saw was darkness. Freak. Ugh! Naruto groaned as he started to regain consciousness. He then figured that he was face down shirtless on a bed. Seeing somebody sitting down next to him, looking up, he saw the blonde nurse next to him with a slight smile on her face with a malicious look in her eyes. It was then that Naruto Uzumaki felt an emotion that he was completely foreign to him. Fear. Grab him! Hold him down! Two voices said as he felt his arms, legs and torso being held down by everyone in his group except Saya and Rei, while the former was rubbing Shizuka's homemade medicine on Rei's back, and Kushina, Yuriko, Kiriko. What the hell are you doing? Naruto screamed as he tried to find a way to get the survivors off his back. Shizuka looked at him in an apologetic manner as she crouched in front of Naruto's face and spoke. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but this is for your own good, she said as she began to use a cotton ball that was soaked in rubbing alcohol to clean Naruto's shoulder wound. Just as Naruto felt the rubbing alcohol touch his wound, he bucked in pain, letting out a silent scream of pain when he moved his shoulder, making Shizuka put more force in her hand than necessary. Naruto-kun, please hold still, Kushina said as she felt her heart ache as she held her son's shoulder down. Shizuka then finished cleaning his wound before she grabbed a treading needle before looking at Yuriko. Are you sure that you don't have anything we could use? Alcohol, painkillers, anything? Shizuka said, worried about causing the blonde more pain. Yuriko shocked her head, sighing to herself. They ran out of painkillers a day into the outbreak, alcohol hours before that, and no one was willing to go over to the shopping district to get more. Shizuka steeled her nerves as the hardest part was next, inserting the needle into Naruto's flesh, and began to dress the wound. Naruto screamed louder as his body began to act on its own, trying anything it can to stop the pain. The hearts went out to the blonde. Nobody wanted him to go through this pain, but it had to be done. This continued for an hour when Shizuka finally finished closing Naruto's wound up. But by then Naruto was knocked out, breathing heavily, exhausted both physically and mentally. Kushina, who had Naruto's head on her lap, was brushing his hair, with a sad look on her face, then asked Shizuka about how long it would take for Naruto to heal his shoulder. Usually it would take 2 weeks for stitches to dissolve, but he has to be careful not to overexert his shoulder and have him rest for the day, Shizuka said as she packed her medical kit up and left the room to see how Rei was doing. Soon after everyone left the room, Kushina looked at her son, who before saying, I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I'm sorry you had to go through so much pain, Kushina said as she began to cry. Kakashi-san, don't cry. I don't like when Kakashi-san being sad, Naruto murmured in his sleep as he moved his, letting himself get comfortable. She couldn't help but smile. Even when he is asleep, he tried to make her happy. Naruto-kun, don't worry, Kakashi-san won't be sad, as long as you're with me. I love you, Kushina wiping the tear from her eyes before she leaned down, kissing her son's lips. Look at me, what kind of mother would kiss her son like that? Kushina said as her lips left his. Kushina smiled with a saddened expression. Naruto, would you accept your mother's feelings if you knew? I really hope so. Kushina then kissed her son once more on the lips before following her son to dreamland. 9 o'clock. Naruto looked at the clock in his room for the 4th time, willing for time to go faster so Shizuka to show up, giving him the go-ahead to use his arm. Since he was injured, he's been forced to stay in his room, that he shared with Kushina since she refused to leave him alone, for the majority of the day by said women until he was better. Besides his mother, the people in his group would visit he occasional, mostly Siko, Miku, Shizuka due to her checking his wounds, Zeke when he is not with Alice, Siko and Rei she was probably just as bored as him is. The last 4 days were slow for him. Siko was using the dojo to train by herself or reading one of the books, hundreds of books that was in a state study room, Kota taking care of their gear. Alice was either with Saya, Shizuka, or eating desserts that the cooks made for her. Misuzu and Tashimi were off hanging out with Miku. Kakashi was doing whatever he can do to keep himself entertained. Kiriko ended up being quick friends with Kushina, Kyoko, Shizuka, and Yuriko. At least he no longer felt the pain coming from his shoulder thanks to one of the supply runners getting high-grade painkillers for him from one of the clinic a couple blocks away from the estate. Hearing a knock on the door, Naruto turned his attention to the person that walked in. Koda walked in with a notepad and pen in hand, muttering softly before he looked up at Naruto. "Naruto-senpai, I have the list of all our weapons, how much ammo we have, and also the type of ammo that each gun uses," Koda said as he handed the former third year the list. Naruto looked through the list. "Besides Seiko Bakken and Kiriko's spear, we don't have any melee weapons. Rei's staff won't really hold up, and I lost my tonfa. We at least still have the crowbar. I will have to figure that out later. I still have my 0.44 Magnum, has 24 bullet left. The Armalite has 1 full clip and 1 in the chamber. The Springfield M1A1 also shares the same type of ammo for the Armalite. The 2 Glock 27 have 3 clips each. Ithaca M37 needs more ammo with only 13 shells. The crossbow still has all its bolts, and the Smith & Wesson revolver has no ammo." Senpai Wade, did you want me to do this? We are going to need a backup plan if something goes wrong, Naruto said as he put down the notepad, looking towards the nightstand next to him where his magnum sat still in its holster. "Hey Koda, take this with you," Naruto said as he grabbed the gun, held it out for Koda to take. "Sorry senpai, but I can't take it," Koda said firmly, even though the gun freak part of him wanted to take the gun and never give it up. Naruto gave him a confused look as he asked Koda, "Why not?" Koda began to rub the back of his neck nervously. "Well, I don't think dash. Koda, look at my shoulder. Do you think I can use a high-power magnum with this shoulder? Do you think I can shoot a zombie with this gun with only one arm?" Naruto explained, trying to make Koda agree with his reasoning, but he still looked unsure. Koda slowly grabbed the gun and holster. "Oh, and be careful where you kept the guns. Don't trust anyone outside of the people you know," Naruto stated as Koda nodded as he left the room to play with his new toy. Naruto laid down on his bed as he felt mental drained. Just then Mika had just come out of his bathroom with wet hair, wearing only black-red lacy see-through bra and matching panties. "I guess just Koda left?" Mika asked as she sat down to his right side, as she began to dry her hair out with a towel that was hanging from the back of the chair that where she placed her clothes. Naruto nodded as she moved on top of Naruto, wrapping her arms around his head before she moved her head to the side, letting her claim the blonde's lips. Naruto moved in response to her action, moving his arms slowly, making sure not to strain his right shoulder, place his hands on her hips. Miku moaned softly, enjoying the feeling of his hands as he rubbed and squeezed her ass. "Naruto-kun, we really should stop. Shizuka-sensei is going to be here. Plus I still feel sore from 30 minutes ago," Mika said as she stopped kissing Naruto. She wanted to continue with all her heart, but the way she lower body felt at the moment, she decided against it. She could tell Naruto didn't want to stop but respected her enough not push it. She kissed his lips once more as she got off and made her way to the chair and got dressed in her school uniform. She hated the fact that she still had to wear it. Heck, a lot of the girls did, but they had nothing to really wear since Saya's clothes were rather small on her and large for the rest, exceptionally when she felt some of the men around the estate look at her with perverted eyes. She swore that she saw some of them lick their lips when they look at her. She really wished Naruto was able to walk around, but Shizuka and his mother, that reminds me, we never really meet her officially, wanted him to recover a bit before he start doing stuff. Although she knew he was well enough to have sex. After she put on her school uniform and tied the ribbon on, she looked at Naruto, had stood up but had his right hand stuffed into his pocket in an effort to prevent his arm from moving his shoulder too much. Mika smiled softly as she walked over to him, letting him kiss her once more before he whispered into her ear, "Please be careful." She nodded as she knew what he wanted her to do, kissing him again as a way to let him know that she was going to be fine, but he still held a worried expression on his face as she left his room. Naruto sighed out loud as he used his left hand to massage his temple, trying to his anxiety that was building before he lied down on his stomach. Soon Naruto fell asleep while waiting for the bus to nurse. It was 9:15 or 9:15 when Naruto woke up. He still felt a bit of pain in his shoulder. it was at least tolerable for him. Naruto stood up from his face-down position on his bed just as the door flew open, revealing a smiling Shizuka. Naruto-kun! Shizuka was wearing a rather erotic pink nurse dress that was tied around her braless frieze straining against the cloth, and her purple thong underneath keeping her plump ass. Looking at the older women in surprise and aroused for whatever reason decide to dress. Naruto-kun, what do you think? Shizuka said as she placed her hands on behind her head and on her hip. Naruto stayed silent as he felt himself memorized by the nurse's curvy body. I think you look. Naruto was at a loss for words as Shizuka walked closer and leaned forward as her frieze jiggled, looking straight into his eye. You look gorgeous, Shizuka-sensei, Naruto said as he tried to avert his eyes away from her frieze. Shizuka didn't want to look too eager as Naruto told her she was gorgeous, but she was unable to stop herself from blushing at his word with a large smile on her face. Shizuka began to sway her hips side to side as she walked forward until she was in front of the injured blonde before she sat down next to him. Do you really think that, Naruto-kun? Do you think sensei is gorgeous? Shizuka said as she placed her hand on Naruto's thigh. Naruto felt his blood go down south as he felt move her hand up and down his thigh. Unable to think of anything to say, Naruto just nodded his head as he gulped. Shizuka was unable to contain herself any longer before she pounced on Naruto, forcing on the bed. Lemon skipped. Naruto looked at the ruined nurse outfit that laid on his floor before he already knew who gave it to Shizuka. Naruto stood up from the bed and quickly put on clean white dress shirt, placing a blanket over the sleeping naked blonde and putting a set of clothes for her to wear when she woke up. He gave a small kiss on her forehead before he left his room. With every step Naruto took, he felt his hair racing. After all, the person he was going to visit was the same person who took his virginity. After leaving Naruto's room, Mika began to think over what he said to her. I need you to get into the west wall. That where they should be storing most of the important supplies. I need you to take everything that is on this list. When you are done, go to the old tool shed in the back. Leave it. Also, please be careful. I don't want you to get hurt. She was happy that Naruto was concerned for her safety and accepted her feelings for him. Due to his injury, Mika couldn't spend much time with him since his mother didn't want anyone but Shizuka-sensei to see him since she feared that they would overstress him. It wasn't until early this morning was she able to see him, although they spent only 30 minutes talking soon ended up making love, sex if you didn't know, to help him relax. Mika felt her heart beating her chest as she remembered this morning events and the time at Shizuka's friend's apartment, but pushed that thought before focusing on her goal. Reaching the west side and leaned against the wall of the estate before peeking around the corner. She could see the storage unit that is being guarded by a lone male guard in front of the door. Looking at the storage unit itself to see if there is another way in besides the door. After a couple of minutes of searching around, she saw a small window in the back she probably could fit, but it was rather high up. Grabbing a large garbage can that was around the side, placing it underneath the window. After making sure that it was sturdy enough to support her weight, she climbed up on top and peeked inside. From what she could see, the inside was a multitude of shelves filled with a variety of things, but more importantly, nobody was inside. Climbing through the window quietly as possible, making sure that the person outside didn't hear her. Stepping down on the table below her before reaching the floor. Holy shit, that is a lot of guns. Mika thought as she saw about 50 or so guns at the wall to her left, not to mention boxes of bullets. She couldn't help but wondered how they got them there since it was illegal to have guns in Japan, but there were exceptions. Whatever, no time to lose. Mika whispered to herself as she went over to where they keep the canned food and began gathering everything that was on the list that was given to her. She was glad that there was a bunch of duffel bags in here, or else it would have turned bad. As she stuffed the bags, she counted 18 canned food, 9 water bottles, 2 bottles painkillers, 16 clips of 7.62, a box of a 112 gauge, 10 clips of .38 special, 100.44 magnum and 10 clips .40 SNW. Hey, there were a couple dozen boxes of them. Looking at the guns, Mika wondered if she should take a gun or two. Just when she began to reach her hand out for one of the guns, she began to hear a loud voice coming from outside. Fear began to seep in when she realized that she could get caught any second, grabbing a pistol of the wall and 2 random boxes of ammo. Placing them in the bag, Zipping it up before she made her way to the table, she managed to get the bag through the window, but she quickly hid behind a shelf just as the door opened. "I told you before to leave me alone!" a female voice yelled as the person stepped inside following another person entering. "Come on, don't be that way, I'm only trying to help. After all, the way the world is at the moment, people like us should stick together. You know?" a male voice said, trying to act in a carefree manner, but it just ended up sounding sleazy and sick to Miku, and so did the other person. "Why would I stay with someone who's been nothing but bugging me everything I come over? If I reject you over the past 4 years, what makes you think I would suddenly fall all over you? I have more important things to do." It was the Miku realized that voice belongs to none other than the mother of Naruto Uzumaki, Kushina Uzumaki. Mika peeked her head over the edge a bit to see the redhead talking to a fairly slim man with black greased back hair, slight pale skin, and with dark brown eyes that made it look like it was pure black. "Come on, Kushina-san, don't be like that. After all, we can die any day now. Also, your son is growing up. What is he, 16 now? Well, that doesn't matter anyways. You should enjoy the days that you are alive," the man said as he stepped closer to Kushina, who stood her ground as she glared at him. The man placed his hands on her shoulder. "It's probably been a long since a man has touched, let alone hold. I'm sure your son wouldn't mind. After all, you're a grown woman with needs. He could use a positive male figure in his life to help stop him from becoming a bigger delinquent than he already is." Kushina snapped. She reared her fist back, ducking him the face as the man stepped backward, clenching his face in pain. He didn't see Kushina knee fly up and hitting him in the stomach. The man gasped for breath as he lied on the floor in agony. "Don't you dare try to get up. My son isn't a delinquent, never was or will be if it wasn't for the fact that he is here and a number of other things. I would have killed you the moment this world became filled with those zombies," Kushina said furiously before she went over to one of the cells before picking up a bottle of Advil, a bottle of water, and Viagra. She kicked the man again, before leaving the man behind. "Wow, Naruto's mom is a badass," Mika thought as she saw the older woman kick the shit out of the man. She'll admit that she was worried about what was going to happen. She wanted to help her, but before she could do anything, Kushina did it herself, kicking the thoughts out of her head when man stood up slowly, coughing a bit before he started to talk to himself out loud. "That fucking whore thinks she could do that to me. She will get hers, and that son of hers will go first." The man limped his way out the door, leaving Mika in the room, though with one thing on her mind. She needs to tell Naruto. Right now, Naruto was at the 3rd floor of the estate, leaning against the wall of the hall as he could hear muffled screams coming from the room he was next to. He then saw the door slam open as a girl with pink hair and mad pair of orange eyes came out and slammed it shut. When she noticed him, her eyes seemed to close on him before they softened a bit before she spoke out to him. "Oh, it's you, Naruto," Saya said to him. As an awkward silence, Naruto scratched the back of his neck, trying to think of what to say. "I know why you're here, just go," Saya said to the blonde, refusing to look him in the eye. "You're still mad, dash?" Naruto tried to ask before Saya stopped him. "No, why would I be?" Saya stated sarcastically, still looking away as she clenched her hands around her arms. "I'm sorry." Naruto tried to apologize Saya, who just turned away from him. "We both know why you're here. So just leave me alone," Saya said before she walked away. Naruto wanted to follow, but there was nothing he can do to make her forgive him. Sighing in frustration before he turned to the door Saya came out of, "It's now or never." Not bothering to knock on the door, he just opened the door, seeing the person he was looking for sitting at a small table facing away from him, closing the door behind him, as the person in the room called him. "You're here early. I expected you to still be having fun with Shizuka-san." Naruto locked the door before going to sit at the table. "To be honest, I would if it wasn't for the fact that it was Shizuka you sent her over with one of your outfits." "Yuriko," Naruto told his godmother, who pouted slightly as she adjusted her the robe she was wearing. "I thought I told to call me Oka-san," Yuriko said as Naruto gave her a look. "Why do you want me to call you Oka-san so much?" Yuriko just gave a smile as if she knows something he didn't. "I find it to be a turn," Yuriko said as she stood up, walked over to Naruto, and sat on his lap and cupped his checks. "Since we both know you have quite the Oedipus complex." The blonde stayed silent, neither denying nor confirming it. chuckling at her godson's hard-headed attitude as she run her right hand through his blonde locks. She frowned as she thought about the fight she had with her daughter earlier. Her heart was breaking. "It's 2 months since Saya-chan found out about our relationship," Yuriko said, leaning into Naruto's chest listening to his heartbeat. In response, the blonde wrapped his arms around her in comfort. "Do you regret it?" he said, wondering if they made the right choice. When she shook her head, the blonde felt relief wash over him. "No, I was the one who wanted this. I made my choice 2 years ago," Yuriko stated, kissing his lips gentle. 2 years ago, what he remembered, his mother, the Takagis and him were supposed to go to a fancy party together. For some reason Saya didn't want to go. His mother ended up having to grade papers. He didn't even know why his godfather, Soichiro Takagi, was a no-show. So he ended up having to go by himself to the party as her escort. The night started normal, but after an hour or so Yuriko started acting weird around him, touching him more, kissing him, petting his thigh, having him hold more intimately during a slow dance. It got ridiculous until Yuriko called it a night. As they left the party, she asked him if he stay with her a little longer. He ended up agreeing since he didn't really see her often, but it ended up being more than he expected. It started when the two were alone in her room and Yuriko made the first step by claiming his first kiss. After that it became a blur. All he knew was that he was no longer a boy. Their relationship had changed from a surrogate mother and son to lovers. And he enjoyed it. It was a bit weird in the beginning, but the two decided to keep this relationship. He knew it was wrong, so did Yuriko. They felt guilty, but for different reasons. But it came to a halt when Saya ended up finding out when saw them making out at his house. He still remembered the look on her face: anger, shock and betrayal. Saya ended up avoiding the two since then, to the point Saya ended up staying at the school dorms when she wasn't in class. Heck, he didn't see her until the day the outbreak began. Even then she only talked to him directly a handful of time. He wanted to at least let the mother and daughter make amends. Their blood he wasn't. "I told her everything you know." Naruto just looked at her with a blank stare, as if asking her to explain. "I told her why we started and the fact that me and Soichiro have been separated for almost 10 years. That got his attention. "Wait, what?" Naruto stared at his godmother, Yuriko, in silence. "I should have told Saya sooner. Soichiro and I fell out of love months after Saya was born. If I just told her that only stayed together was because we loved her so much." Yuriko felt her eyes water as a tear began to fall. Naruto kissed the top of her head as she began to rant about she was a bad mother that deserves her daughter's hatred. "You are not a bad mother. You care about Saya so much to stay in a loveless marriage just so she can be happy," Naruto said softly as he tried to reassure the crying women in his arms. "I know Says doesn't hate you. She wanted to make sure that you were safe. She needs time to understand what her feelings are. She's pretty stubborn after all." Naruto, as she chuckled. "Stubbornness runs in the family," Yuriko said fondly as she thought how hard-headed her and Naruto's family are. "Give her time to cool down a little, then talk to her." Yuriko nodded. She knew that it wasn't going to be easy. Heck, finding out that your parent ended sleeping with the person you love and found out that her parents are in a loveless marriage. It was understandable. But Naruto didn't know that her daughter was in love with him. How did she find herself in a love triangle with her own daughter, which a part of a larger love web? "Are going to be okay, Oka-san?" Naruto asked as Yuriko smiled, nodded her head before she gave him a sultry look. "That depends. Are going to stay and comfort your Oka-san or go back to have fun with your assistant and nurse?" Naruto's jaw was left open before he remembered that Shizuka was still asleep in his room and the fact that he slept with Miku as well. "How did Dash?" Yuriko simply put her finger on the blonde's lips, shutting him up. "A lady knows her man, and besides, I don't mind the fact that you fucked them. I was the one giving Shizuka a chance to be with you. Besides, you're too much for me to handle anyways," Yuriko stated. "So why did you send Shizuka to sleep with me?" Naruto asked as Yuriko giggled. "I just gave her the outfit. What she had done was all her doing." Naruto stood silent in shock. Taking advantage of the situation in front of her, she stood up, taking his hand, lead him to her bed and began to kiss him, before the two fell onto the bed with Naruto at the bottom. Lemon skipped. Naruto felt exhausted. laid down next to her and began to hug her close to him, wanting nothing than to sleep. Yuriko placed her head on top of his chest, listening to his heartbeat. After 2 years she could definitely say she wouldn't give this up. The two stayed there to silently just enjoy their peace and quiet. Naruto then began to let his mind wander. He began to think, what was Siko doing? What was he going to eat? Did Mika finish her job? Why did Shizuka ask for a nurse outfit? Fuck. Naruto jolted up as he realized that Shizuka was still in his room, naked and asleep in his bed. Yuriko pouted as felt that she lost her body pillow, looking at him. "You're not staying?" Shaking his head no. "I'll try to see you later at night, okay?" Naruto said, kissing his godmother on the lips. But Yuriko wasn't satisfied with just that, but it would have to do. "Fine, if you do, I might have a little present waiting for you," Yuriko said seductively as she put her hand on his crotch, giving it a squeeze. Naruto felt that his blood rushing downwards again, but he couldn't. He was worried about someone finding out about the naked nurse in his room, like Miku, Siko, Saya. Wait, she's still mad at him. I'm going to have to figure that out later. Basically any member of his group, or worse, his mother. "I really have to go, Oka-san," Naruto said as Yuriko nodded her head, letting the blonde leave the room. Yuriko sighed. Guess she'll have to wait until then, looking at the clock on the wall. She smirked as she wondered if her other surprise for Naruto was waiting at room already. But for now she will think of a way to make Saya forgive her. She had an idea that could work, but how to execute it. For now she should focus on the plan for tonight's event. Hearing her door open. "You're late, did you get what I asked for?" Yuriko said in a sing-song manner, as she watched the person close the door behind her. Naruto looked around nervously as he walked the halls to his room, making sure he wasn't followed. Damn, he was getting paranoid, as he saw his room, letting out a sigh of relief. He made it without any. He spoke too soon. When he went inside the room, he noticed two things. One was Shizuka, who looked like she had just woken up as she was still naked. Her hair was a mess, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. The other was Miku, holding a duffel bag with her, arms crossed under her waist, tapping her right foot with a look on her face that screamed, "What is this? You better explain or else." With the situation at hand, Naruto kinda figured this would happen, might as well get it over with. Unlucky for him, or lucky depending on your view of things, somebody saw the situation. Well, look what we got here." Naruto froze when he heard a voice coming from behind him. Turning his head slowly, he saw the person speak. Then he saw what the person was wearing. "Looks like you've been a bad boy. I am going to have to punish you," said Kyoko as she smirked at Naruto, who looked at the sexy police outfit with fishnet stocking and black heels his ex-homeroom teacher was wearing. Then when he looked at Miku and Shizuka, they looked like they agreed. Kyoko slammed the door, locking the door as the three then stalked their way to the blonde male. Naruto felt himself get pushed on the bed and said a single word when he saw Kyoko take out a pair of fuzzy pink handcuffs. "Belongs to Yuriko." Shit, they soon pounced. 4 hours would pass before anyone would see them. But when they did, the girls looked absolutely radiant, and agreed to talk about their situation later. Mika stayed behind, saying she needed to tell him something important. Shizuka and Kyoko left without saying anything, but couldn't help think that Mika was going to tell Naruto that she was pregnant. Mika looked at the exhausted blonde who was grumbling to himself as he messages his wrist. The two stood silent. Mika felt conflicted. She wanted to yell at Naruto for sleeping with Shizuka, but she knew that the two weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, nor dating, so she had no right to. But she wanted to be angry all the same. A part of her wanted to not tell him about his mother. At the same time, she felt that she should. Naruto was just as quiet, since he didn't want to piss Mika anymore, reaching for a water bottle and a bottle of pills. "So did you get what I asked you to get?" Naruto asked as he popped 2 painkillers into his mouth. Mika nodded her head. "I got everything and a bit of extra stuff that you should look at. But that's not what I'm here for." Naruto just gave her look as he started to chug the contents of the bottle. "It's about your mother." Miku started, but stopped when Naruto stopped drinking, and with a cold glare in his eyes, and said, "What about my mother?" At the same time, Misuzu was bored since she woke up at 10 a.m. relatively late, since everyone was out and about doing whatever they do. Then she leaned against her bedroom window, looking out at the front yard of the estate. She was glad that she didn't have to sleep in a tent like most people that were allowed to stay on the property. She could see that some of the people were fighting with each other over something trivial or complaining about the state they're living in. She's pretty sure that some of them had just said that the zombies were just sick people with a virus that could be cured. That was bullshit, and she was pretty sure anyone with a brain knew that. Taking in a deep breath as she thought over Naruto was injured. Saya was being moody since they got here. Kakashi was usually with Rei, who was starting to feel better. Miku was busy with an errand at the moment, same with Koda. Siko was a book. Knowing her, it was probably a classic novel. It was a book about how to get out of the friend zone. She'd rather not hang out with Shizuka or any of the older women since they were never anywhere to be found and made her feel even more insecure about her body than she already was. That leaves her best friend Tashimi and Alice, and Zeke. She loved Tashimi, she really did. They have an extremely close relationship. You can only hang out with the same person for so long before you get bored. She wondered if could sneak into the Naruto-kun's room, having seen his mother leave the building a while ago. What if he was sleeping? He would always sleep at school. So she heard. What if she catches him while he was getting dressed or get out of the shower? Misuzu felt her body heat up at the idea of her senpai's hot muscular-toned body. Rubbing her thighs as she began to imagine that she was at school with Naruto at his office, and she was being punished roughly. Just as her hand reached inside her panties, her door was blown open. "Yuzu-chan, are you up?" Tashimi yelled as she walked into her best friend's room. Misuzu silently cursed just when it was getting good. She then made her way over to Tashimi, who asked, "What are you doing?" Misuzu tried to keep a straight face. "I was looking out the windows since there's nothing to do." Misuzu wasn't lying per se. Ever since the group got here, they were told to just stay inside and not get involved. Which was bull. The world was ending and the adults thought of them as kids. The world has different known. The rules from before don't matter. They were just stubborn and stuck in the past. "I don't blame you," Tashimi spoke as she looked out to the yard, seeing that a small fight breaking out between two adult males since one of them didn't stay in his own space. "The only thing we can do is wait, I guess." Tashimi then looked toward her friend and said, "I hear Naruto is getting better. When I was coming over here, I could hear a bunch of yelling and screams coming from his room. If he can argue that much, he must be feeling better, right?" Misuzu looked relieved hearing that he was getting better. "That's good to hear. I wonder if we could visit him?" Misuzu spoke softly while she was fiddling with her fingers, looking at her friend's bright red face, and stated, "Are you going to confess how you feel?" Tashimi relished in that fact. Her friend was turning into a bright red. "I don't like him like that." Misuzu began to stutter, trying to deny that she does have an interest in the older blonde. "Bullshit," Tashimi sang as Misuzu kept denying her feelings. "Really, then why do you want to go? We can just ask Shizuka-sensei how he is doing. Besides, if you don't have feelings for him, you wouldn't have masturbated while sniffing his shirts the day he got here," Tashimi said, and to further prove her point to her, she walked over to their bed, pulling out said shirt. Aye. Misuzu couldn't think of an excuse this time. "Also, you are going to masturbate before I came in." Tashimi's left hand reached down and flipped her friend's skirt, revealing her wet panties. Misuzu screamed as she tried to quickly push her back down, embarrassed that her friend found out what she was going to do. "Why are you embarrassed? We have already seen each other naked and we even dash." Misuzu then tackled Tashimi, causing her to squeal as the two began to wrestle on the bed. Kakashi sighing to himself, since Shizuka-sensei didn't come back from whatever she was doing. He was forced to wake up early and help Miyamoto-san, by hold down or down to allow her to apply medicine onto Rei's back. That in itself wasn't that bad, since he was able to get a glimpse of her naked body. But soon her mother left to do an errand, leaving the two alone. Kakashi was nervous being left alone with Rei. The two haven't been alone together ever since they were in the apartment. The two kept quiet the entire time, which ended with Rei getting mad at him for not leaving right away. He didn't know why she wanted him to leave. He wanted to talk to her since they got here. She just kept avoiding him. Why were women so complicated? Then all of a sudden, when he was walking to his room, Saya ran into him. Kakashi was then yelled at by her for not addressing her properly, and for being quick to please other people. He was left there scared out of his mind when she left. This day was quickly becoming worse, and it was only 10. He needs some fresh air. Walking down the staircase leading to the lobby, and saw 2 guys having trouble carrying a giant suitcase. You idiot! You were walking too fast! Kakashi ran towards them and quickly grabbed the bottom, letting the guys adjust their grip on the object. Oh, thanks. The guy that lost his grip thanked Kakashi. Good, I got it. That's enough, kid, the other said as Kakashi gave a confused look on his face. No, let me help you, Kakashi asked, but the guys just laughed as if he just told a funny joke. We are good, kid. This is something for adults. You kids should just take it easy. They quickly stopped laughing and began to carry the suitcase outside. Kakashi began to glare at them as they left. It's nothing to get bent out of shape about, Kakashi-san, turning around to see who just well. Kakashi began to gawk as he looked at Siko, who was wearing a purple kimono, making her look into his beautiful mind. Siko noticed him staring at her. What is the matter? Causing him to stutter and mumble. Well, it's that you look good in that. Real good. Siko looked surprised at what Kakashi had said, but was happy at being complimented on it. She then thought what Naruto would think. Thanks you, Kakashi-san, for your compliment. Siko as gave a small smile, making Kakashi blush as he rubbed the back of his head nervously. Hearing footsteps coming towards them, the 2 quickly saw Alice and Zeke running towards them. What is it? Is something going on? Alice asked them, smiling as the 2 smiled back at her. Kakashi just said that they're happy that she was doing well. Alice nodded her head, saying she was doing fine. He couldn't help but think back to when Shizuka said that Alice would wake up screaming and would find her sleeping in her arms. She then decided to let Alice stay in her room, then the nightmares stopped. Suddenly the trio looked up and saw Saya and Koda coming up to them. Kakashi-san, Siko-san, I think there's something that we all need to talk about, Saya said, making everyone on edge about it. Miku had just told Naruto what had just happened when she was grabbing the supplies. That fact that someone was harassing his mother, and apparently for quite a long time. She could feel her body shiver. He hadn't said anything in a good 10 minutes. He just had a look in his eyes. Miku had just told Naruto what had just happened when she was grabbing the supplies. That fact that someone was harassing his mother, and apparently for quite a long time. She could feel her body shiver. He hadn't said anything in a good 10 minutes. He just had a look in his eyes. What does he look like? Naruto asked, making Miku jump as the word left his mouth. Fiddling with her skirt since she didn't know much. Well, he had black hair that was slicked back, with dark brown eyes that looked like it was pure black, Miku said, describing the person she saw. Naruto clicked his tongue. That could be anyone. Is there anything else you can tell me? Naruto said. Miku closed her eyes and thought. What else could she say? She snapped her. Wait, he is rather pale, a suit and a gold ring with a red ruby on his finger, Miku said just as a knock on the door diverted their attention. Naruto stood up and opened the door as he saw Siko standing there. Siko? What's up? Naruto asked, confused why Siko came. Siko looked to the side as Miku and her eyes met before she looked back at Naruto. Everyone is meeting up in Rei's room. Naruto nodded his head before motioning Miku to follow. Miku and Siko then looked at each other, then they began to follow the blonde. Naruto never noticed as his mind was focused on one person. Why is everyone here? Rei yelled as everyone from their group besides Kiriko was crowded in her room. While she was naked, since the medicine on her back wasn't dry yet. Everyone was confused at the fact a meeting was called by Saya. She notices Naruto was leaning against the wall far away from everybody. Saya was at the window watching the front yard, see people put the boxes in a moving truck, a mechanic melding a metal plate on a bus, and a large group of people fighting. Everyone was quiet, no one wanting to ask the question. Kyoko was the one to do so. So why are we here? Kyoko asked. Yes, so what are we here to talk about? Shizuka said, peeling a banana. Heck, she was hungry and having sex, sleeping then immediately having a foursome afterwards, didn't help. About the fact whether or not we're still on the same side after today, Saya said, causing an uproar. Heck, even Naruto was shocked, but was not at all surprised at what she said. Of course, we on the same side, we just joined a larger group and a more stable group, Siko said, not understanding the reason behind what Saya had just said. It's because of that same reason why I am asking about this in the first place. The way I see this, we have two options here. Stay with them or dash. Soon everyone got what she was trying to say. Or we split up, Kakashi said, confirming what they had thought. Tashimi looked at Saya and questioned about if they really had to choose. Saya didn't anything. She's right, Naruto exclaimed as all eyes were on him. We have to decide on what's going to happen. We all have to figure out on what each person wants. Everyone in here needs to decide on this. Are you going to stay in the same group or leave with everyone else? We each have family we are worried about. It was then that Naruto had stopped looking straight at Kakashi, who stepped back scared. Kakashi, you're the only one here who doesn't have a family member accounted for. So, Kakashi, what are you going to do? Naruto asked, causing Kakashi to mutter. What? Kakashi felt everybody looks directed at him, just remembering that Kakashi's parents are still in the city. Truthfully, he had forgotten about them since he got to the estate. He felt terrible. How could he forget about them? Saya motioned the group outside to the balcony, wanting to leave Kakashi to his thoughts. Ray asked Alice to stay with her, not wanting Alice to hear the conversation. She felt bad for him. She understands how he feels. Her father was still missing. She wanted to believe that her father was alive. She knew that he had a high chance of dying or getting bitten. It comes with being the police officer after all. Look at the town, then look at what is going on down below, Saya said as Kota looked through a pair of binoculars, seeing a large number of zombies gathering around outside. He clicked his tongue. It was getting worse. Looking at the moving truck, he understood what they were doing. If he knew, then the others would as well. Wow, Saya-san, father must be really powerful to be able to pull this off. Your mother too, Tashimi said, impressed. Saya scoffed, still feeling the rage from earlier. Being near Naruto didn't help her. Yeah, she's pretty amazing. I used to be proud of that, Saya said, shocking everyone outside. Kakashi went outside. Being able to do all this in one day. But even then I couldn't. Takagi dash. Kakashi started ignoring that Saya was yelling at him. Don't talk about your parents like that. It's not time for it. Everyone's having it rough, it's not only you. Shut up. Don't you think I know that? I know I should be happy. They were able to notice something was amiss. They were able to take action and protected everyone they could. But what about their daughter? They just shoved me aside. They don't even care about how I feel dash. Kakashi couldn't take it anymore. Marching right up to Saya, grabbing her by her shirts, lifting her up into the air. Shut up! Saya! Everyone's mouths dropped open in shock, even Naruto, who began moving closer towards the two, just in case. We get it. We are all the same. Everyone here is going through the same thing. But you should be lucky to know that both your parents are safe. Kakashi ranted at her. It wasn't fair to everyone else, only two people in their group whose family were safe. Saya glared at Kakashi. She wanted to scream at him but didn't. Of course she knew, she was right there when they told each other about their families. Naruto was, god damn it. Kakashi, let go of Saya, Naruto said as he grabs onto one of Kakashi's arms. Looking at Naruto, Kakashi released his grip and let go of Saya. Without saying a word, Saya grabbed her glasses that had fallen earlier. She refused to look at Naruto. She didn't want to feel any more pain. What they didn't notice was Kota glaring at both Kakashi and Naruto. But for different reasons. We need to settle things later, right now, Naruto said. Soon they began to hear as sounds of things started to get closer. We have company. Looking over to the gate, they could see a number of cars and trucks started to come closer. Soon the gates were pulled open. Everyone stopped what they were doing to watch as the vehicles began to park to the side. Except for a truck and one car. The truck parked right next to the fountain in the middle of the yard. Everyone gasps, since what was on the bed of the truck was a zombie in a cage, wearing a uniform of the right-wing nationalist group. Soon a large man exited the car. This person was also wearing the same uniform. He had a dark tan skin, combed jet black hair and orange eyes. "Who is that guy?" Kota asked, wondering out loud who this person was. Naruto just kept his eyes on the large man and said, "Soichiro Takagi." The group looked between both Naruto and Saya, figuring out rather quickly who the person was. After all, this person was Saya's father and Naruto's godfather. The group kept quiet as they watched a group of men finish setting up a small stage. A forklift began to place the caged zombie onto said stage. Soichiro climbed up the stage holding a katana. He just stood watching the zombie before he spoke. "This man's name is Tetsuda Doi. A comrade and friend who has worked with us for more than a quarter of a century. In the middle of a rescue mission, he tried to save one of our own and was bitten. Then half-crowed began to talk amongst themselves, most wondering what was going to happen, but the rest knew that this would end one way. He sacrificed himself. That's the noblest act a human being can perform. However, he is no longer human. He has been reduced to nothing more than a deadly fiend," Soichiro said as he pulled out his katana, before motioning one of his men to open the cage. "And that's why I know we'll show this final act of kindness him." And with that the zombie quickly charged at him. Soichiro sidestepped that charge and swung his katana down. The zombie's son was decapitated and without arm. The crowd below was shocked at the brutality they just witnessed. However, Naruto's group was used to this, but two people had a different reaction. Siko couldn't help but appreciate his sword technique, but Kota held a look of contempt. "Farewell, my friend," Soichiro said, as stomped down on the decapitated head of his dead friend before looking towards the crowd. "This is our reality now. Even if they were your friends, family, or lovers, we must dispose of them without hesitation. If you want to live, fight." And with that, he left the stage, leaving everyone to their own devices. Soichiro quickly walked up to Yuriko, Kuriko, and Kushina and began to talk to them. Naruto couldn't help but watch them. "Blades are so useless," Kota exclaimed. Naruto and Siko felt angry at Kota for saying that. What did he know about the ways of the sword? "You're assuming too much, Hirano-kun," Kyoko said. She could tell that this situation could only get worse if it escalates any further. "It's true, swords chip when it hits bone. They're completely useless after cutting down 3 or 4 people," Kota said as he snapped at his sensei. "Kota, shut up, who cares about this?" Kakashi said as he felt this conversion was pointless and wanted nothing part of this. "Kota, you're wrong about that," Naruto said as Siko continued where he left off. "Naruto is right. Anyone who practices the ways of the sword knows what its demands are. The skill of the wielder, quality of his swords, and mental strength. If those things are at their highest level, it wouldn't matter how many enemies it cuts down. But when you get blood on it," Kota tried to argue his point, but Siko then compared it to a skilled chief. How uses a good knife, wouldn't get any excess meat on the blade, and the same could be said about swords. Kota was stumped, but was made worse as Kakashi grabbed his shoulder. "Hey, Kota, let it go, it doesn't matter anyways." Kota quickly shoved Kakashi's hand away. "Don't touch me. Don't interrupt me, and stay out of this, you can't even fire a gun," Kota screamed before running out of Rei's bedroom. "What's his problem?" Kakashi said angrily at Kota. Siko quickly stopped him. With that, he left the room without looking back. Siko looked back and sighed. He doesn't get it. Feeling a hand on her shoulder, making her turn to see her blonde friend. "Just let them be, Siko, they need to figure this out by themselves," Naruto said as he looked out of the corner of his eye to see a pair of orange eyes watching them from down below. Siko nodded her head. "I know. But I can't help but worry," Siko said as she left the room too. Saya glared at the back of Naruto's head before huffing and marched up as well. "I think we should leave things for now, but I want everyone to think about what they want to do." Naruto watched Tashimi and Misuzu leave with a reluctant Miku who stared back at him. Naruto just gave a reassuring smile. "Is there something you guys need?" Naruto asked, noting that Kyoko and Shizuka were still there with him. Kyoko looked between both blondes before nodding towards Shizuka, then left the two of them alone. Shizuka turned away and placed her arms on the rail of the balcony. Naruto felt that something was wrong. He turned around to close the door to Rei's room. Shizuka, do you want to talk? Naruto asked Shizuka. Naruto-kun, do you remember what I told you 2 weeks ago? Shizuka asked Naruto. He was confused for a moment, until he remembered that he said that she was studying to be a doctor. But for some reason she decided to become a school nurse. Yeah, I do, but what does that have to do with what's going on? Naruto questioned Shizuka. When I transferred universities, I made a promise to myself to remain the same person no matter what. But I'm worried that everyone will change for the worst. Shizuka said. She then turned towards him, letting Naruto see that she was on the verge of tears. Naruto, I'm worried about you as well, so is Kyoko-san. You don't have to bear everything on your shoulders. If need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. Even though I'm not as smart or strong, I want to help you as much as I can. If you want advice or someone to lean on, Shizuka said before she hugged him, as she whispered, even if it's just physical. Once those words left her mouth, she quickly left. Rei watched as Shizuka left the room. Alice looked confused when she saw Shizuka leaving in tears. No sooner Naruto came inside from the balcony, he looked at Rei and Alice before sighing and sat down next to them. Alice, can you check up on Kota for me? Make sure he doesn't get into trouble, Naruto asked. Alice felt conflicted while she wanted to check on everyone, but she could tell that her big brother was in pain. But she nodded her head and went to check up on Kota and the others. Naruto then felt something scratching at his leg. Looking down, he saw that Zeke looking up at him whimpering. Smiling slightly, Naruto crouched down and rubbed Zeke's head. Don't worry about me, Zeke, can you go with Alice and make sure she's safe, okay? He said to Zeke, who seemed to understand what he was saying as he licked his hand and ran after Shizuka. Shizuka-sensei is right, you know. You don't have to put everything on your shoulders. Rei spoke out. Naruto nodded his head. I know, as much as I hate to admit it, Naruto said as Rei stood up from the bed, wincing as she felt a small pain from her back. I could have handled the situation better. You think? Rei said sarcastically. Naruto glared slightly at her but turned around. What do you think is going to happen? Truthfully, I don't know, Rei. I can't answer for anybody but myself. Rei hugged her legs as she watched the blonde running his fingers through his hair. She can see why Shizuka was worried. Rei didn't need to ask him about whether he was going to leave the group or stay. She already knew his choice. Naruto-kun, if you want to talk, I wouldn't mind, Rei told him. Naruto just nodded his head. Thanks, Rei. I know that I'm not an easy person to be around with. It means a lot, Naruto said as he stood up and left her room. Rei smiled lightly before she laid back down on the bed. Naruto felt his feet moving on their own. He didn't have anywhere to go or anything to do. Soon, his group would decide which way they're going. Truth be told, he didn't know what he wanted. He'd been living his life day by day. It wasn't until the world ended that he actually wanted something. It made him think how empty his life was before all this happened. Don't screw around, kid! Yeah, just hand them over. Hearing this, Naruto turned the corner as he saw a group of men huddle around someone. Figuring that this didn't concern him, he began to walk away until. You can't keep these weapons, brat, these are hard time. And one person can't hoard all these weapons. So give them to us. Walking closer, he could see a Kota hugging all of the group's weapons, but what worried him was that he was in the middle of a bunch of adults. They were not happy. And oh, I borrowed these. And besides, nobody else here can handle them as well as I can, Kota said as he hugged the guns closer. This just ended up pissing them off. They soon start to creep closer to Kota menacingly. Who care about this, brat? Let's just take them, the bald guy said as he and another guy started to walk towards Kota, not caring what they have to do to get the weapons. Don't even think about it, Naruto said, getting the men's attention. Those weapons aren't yours, and taking them from my group will make me very mad. Back off, brat. Don't interfere in our dash, the bald guy said before Naruto got right in his face. He is a part of my group and those are our weapons, so it's my business. Don't even think of taking them from us. What are you going to do about it, you stupid brat? We are the adults here. There is nothing you can do to use, one of the others said before the rest of the men started to crowd around Naruto and Kota, except one who was watching Naruto intensely. I don't care if you are older. I won't allow you to mess with my group. Naruto said before he put his hands in his pocket. What they didn't know was that he had a small ice pick in his pocket to protect himself with. It wasn't a knife, but it was good enough. If you want those guns, then you better expect a fight. The men were pissed off. Not only was this punk going against them and was keeping weapons from them. It didn't matter, he didn't look that strong, he was younger, and he was outnumbered. This would be a good stress reliever. Fine then, Brad, have it your way. And with that they charged at him. Naruto waited for them to get closer to his, but just then dash. What's all this commotion about? Naruto turned around and saw his mother, Yuriko, Kiriko, and Soichiro. Naruto shifted uncomfortably as he felt his mother's disapproval, Yuriko's and Kiriko's amusement, but Soichiro just ignored his godson and walked straight to Kota. Young man, what is your name? I am Soichiro Takagi, leader of the Devout Patriot League, Soichiro said, causing Kota to feel scared at having to face Saya's father. KK Kota Hirano, second-year Class B at Fujimi High, Kota said as he stuttered every word he said. Yuriko walked up to Soichiro and began to whisper in his ear about who he is. Soichiro nodded his head slightly before why Kota wouldn't give up the guns he was holding with a glare. I can't. I won't. If I lose this, then I would dash. Naruto then realized why Kota wanted to keep the guns. It was so he could feel important and to be somebody else before all this. Now that he has it, he doesn't want to let it go. And what's that? Soichiro questioned the boy, but before he could say anything. That's protecting your daughter, Kakashi said as he walked up and stood in front of Kota, protecting him from the adult. Then a crying Alice came up and hugged Kota while Zeke stood right next to Naruto growling at Soichiro. Then soon after, the rest of their group showed to defend Kota. Saya stepped up in front of her father, still fueled by anger, exclaimed that Kota helped her more than anything he ever did. Soichiro was quietly listening to his daughter's rant. When she finished, he turns to look at his godson for the first time. Naruto, is what my daughter said the truth? Soichiro asked. Naruto scoffed at what he said. Yes, old man, Kota was the one to protect her before we meet up, Naruto said, causing his godfather slight glare at his godson. I see you are still disrespectful as always, Soichiro sighed. Still have that stick up your ass, I see, Naruto rebutted, as he got in front of Soichiro's face. The two glared at each other, making the people who didn't know about their relationship scared. After a bit, a small smirk appeared on Soichiro as he lifted his hand and placed it on Naruto's head. I'm glad you didn't lose that fire of yours, Naruto, Soichiro said as Naruto slapped his hand away. I don't like it when you do that, Naruto stated as Soichiro's eyes looked at his right shoulder before he turned around when he heard of someone call his name. Soon a person came running up to him and said, Sir, we have a problem. How many times do I need to repeat myself? There is no such thing as murder syndrome, Saya exclaimed to the people in the small camp of civilians. Her father had asked her to talk to the group that were causing a commotion at the campgrounds. Due to the fact that they wouldn't listen to her mother or father, they decided to send her to reason with them. She reluctantly accepted, and the three males decided to accompany her for protection. So here she was trying to reason with people who didn't even care about what a kid says. She has been at it for about 30 minutes, but they brushed her off or outright ignored her, and it was pissing her off. How stupid can they be? Then there are really dead people walking around? Don't be stupid, kid, a male adult said to Saya. It has to be a new kind of disease. Here we go again. The chief just showed you that those things are not like us. We all saw how they behaved for a little over a week. Kota chimed in to help the pink-haired girl. Anyways, there's no way anyone credible can explain how they can move after death, Saya exclaimed, stumping the adults for a bit. Say what you like, but there's definitely something that caused all this, the adult male said, with the female next to him agreeing with him. Of course something caused this, but it's impossible for amateurs to figure it out. Okay. We have to also give professionals plenty of time to stabilize the environment so they can calmly conduct research. Saya began to scream, as the adults moved back slightly in fear of the angry pink-haired girl. I'm sorry, but we are not cut out for that. Or are you guys special or something? Saya finished as Kakashi and Koda looked pleased that this mess was solved. Naruto felt different. This was not the end of it. Oh, I know what you're getting at, the woman said with a smug look on her face. She began to laugh, all of a sudden confusing the second-year students. I was wondering how high schoolers wielding guns like you ended up with them. You're the daughter of the leader of that fucking right-wing group. Treats and violence to control us. It's people like your father what made this world the way it is now. It's your father who is trying to make us become murderers just like him. The lady screamed at Saya, looked confused and startled at the women's crazy accusation. They watched as the women began to rant to her fellow adults, until Kakashi questioned them, causing them to snap at him for being a kid and that this matter is for adults. Kakashi quickly retaliated and told them what they'd been through, but before he could even finish his sentence, the adult told him to shut up and leave them alone. Saya shrugged her shoulders and left with Koda and Kakashi before they did something stupid. Naruto decided to stay until they were out of sight. Naruto made his way closer so that he can hear them. He ended up learning about their plan to pick a spokesman and have a meeting with his godfather, and tried to reason with him to organize a humanitarian relief fund for those in need, trying to save this world without violence, getting volunteers to cure this virus, make a perfect society. Bullshit. Solving this problem without violence could have worked, but you cannot reason with the dead. How can they cure a virus without any actual scientist? They would just end it dead or undead. There's no such thing as a perfect society, it would always fail. And talking to Soichiro about changing his plan when he already had his mind set on something else. Man refuses to acknowledge what is wrong, until it's too late, Naruto said, leaving the adults to their future plan. Their world is already dead. What does it look like to you? Soichiro said as he picked up a katana from a stand in his dojo and handed it to Siko, who was sitting across from him. I heard Busujima-sensei's daughter was a superior swordsman who could even beat even the famous Sanako Chiba. It doesn't matter as long as you live the way of the sword and have no reason to be ashamed then. Siko looked down as she couldn't help but feel unworthy of holding a katana. She couldn't even touch it without using her kimono as a medium. She feels that if she has a blade in her hands, her dark nature would come out. She didn't want that to happen, especially not around him. Your touch will not soil the blade. Siko jumped slightly, before she pushed her hands out from her kimono, placing one on each side of the katana, and pulled the blade out. It was beautiful. She could instantly that this was well made, old, and extremely rare. Do you see it? Soichiro questioned his sensei's daughter. If his hunch was right, then she would be able to identify the katana, which only 4 others were able to do. The shallow curve and lack of temper pattern along the double blade edge tells me it's in a little crow style, Siko said before she put the blade back inside its sheath. I saw was the rifle Kanamasa Murata blade. Soichiro nodded his head in approval before placing his hand on his chin. Just what as I expected. As you concluded, the blade was one of the swords that General Murata, known for his Murata rifles, fashioned in the middle of the Meiji era in the Tokyo artillery arsenal. They say that can cut through a pig's skull clean in half in a single stroke without damaging the blade. It was an honor to see this with my own eyes, Siko said, then began to place the blade in front of her. It now belongs to you, Soichiro said. Siko then looked at him with a straight face, could believe what he had just said. I know this will sound rude, but I can't accept this without a proper reason. I had received instruction from Busujima-sensei. Can you accept it as a token of gratitude? Soichiro said. Then I will give it to my father, she said quickly, causing the man to laugh out loud while slapping his knee. That's the daughter of the Busujima family, Soichiro said, calming down from earlier. You speak from your heart. My apologizes. Siko bowed her head. Soichiro couldn't help be amused by her actions. She was so different from her father, yet so similar at the same time. He was more amused at that his godson was friends with his sensei's daughter. I can only imagine my daughter, what a burden my daughter was. It's true that I've saved her life, but I've been saved by her as well. If you would go so far of your way to protect her, you could simply keep her by your side. I know your daughter respects and cherishes you from the bottom of her heart, Siko said as he smiled. If it were that easy. You really are just like your father. Siko could not help but be proud by his statement. Then rather than myself, why not someone else like Uzumaki-san or Naruto? Siko said as Soichiro's expression changed. She could help but feel that she stepped on a mine. While it's true that Kushina-san is a skilled swordsman, but she put that side of her in the past when Naruto was born. Her skill has rusted from lack of training and practice. Soichiro sighed before he continued. While Naruto, he is a rather complex case. While me and his mother both trained him, he took to it like a fish to water. But a while ago a number of accidents accrued that caused him to fear his skill with it and strength. What incident was that? Siko couldn't help but ask. What had happened to hang up his blade? It was the incidents themselves, it was how they were caused, Soichiro said. He couldn't control his emotions and he almost killed several people. Siko's eyes widened in realization. Hold it out level and firm, aim at just above the chest, then fire. Kakashi muttered to himself as he aimed down his shotgun and pretended to fire. Ever since he went his separate ways with Saya and Koda, he has been thinking about what happened earlier. A part of him felt it was selfish, but he didn't care. He wanted to do what he feels was right. He then repeated what he did, and just then his phone signaled that the battery was fully charged. Putting down his gun and walked to his phone, unplugged it, and tried to call his house. Damn it! Kakashi threw the phone on the bed. The phone in his house had been disconnected or the power was out. He thought of trying his parents' cell phones. He had a feeling that it wouldn't have reached anyways. It hadn't the last couple of days, why should it now? What are you going to do, Kakashi? Damn it, Naruto! Kakashi said as he threw himself on his bed, ignoring the fact that his phone fell on the ground. He felt bitter about what Naruto said. What is he going to do? How should he know? Naruto was their leader, as both Saya and Koda had indicated from before. He wanted to blame the blonde for putting him in the situation, but he couldn't. It was on him. The cards were in his hand. And he already made his choice. Kakashi, what is it? Why did you call for me? Rei said as showed up dressed up in her combat gear. She was leaning on the door frame as her back was still hurt a bit. It was not that bad. Although she was curious why he called her to his room. You really shouldn't push yourself, it could get worse, Kakashi said as Rei carefully sat on the bed next to him. Says the guy who asked me to come to his room, Rei said. Don't push yourself too hard too. You were practicing with your gun, weren't you? That's really good. Yeah, good, right? Kakashi spat out. You never did like being forced to do things, Rei commented. He was always like this. It was because of this that he had bad grades and would often skip classes. It's a pain in the ass and I really hate it. It doesn't matter what I do, Kakashi said as he clenched his bed sheets. That is what the only thing that I hate doing. Is that why you and Naruto don't get along? Rei said. Kakashi looked dumbfounded at what she said. Sure, he and Naruto had their disagreements, but he wouldn't say he hated the blonde. Whatever, Kakashi said. We both have different ways of doing things, that's why I'm going to leave the group. Kakashi stood up and looked at Rei, who was in shock as he said. I want you to come with me. Kakashi, what dash? Rei tried to speak, but Kakashi grabbed Rei by her arms and pulled her up from the bed. I'm serious, Rei. I mean it. We could just leave, nobody would be able to find us, we could start fresh. Kakashi said passionately. He really thinks it could work. They both have weapons and could easily defend themselves when needed. Kakashi, you're hurting me. Rei voiced her discomfort, making him realize that he was squeezing her too hard. When he had let go of Rei's arm, she grabbed her side in pain. I need to go see Shizuka-sensei about this. Rei, please, can you think about this? Kakashi said, as Rei left his room. He laid back down on the bed thinking about his plan. If he would go through with this, he would need another person for help, but who? Suddenly a person crossed his mind. It might work, but just how can he ask her? Rei began to walk the halls of the estate and thought of what to do. Kakashi had asked her to leave everyone behind and to run away together. She should be happy that he had asked her to run away with him. But things were different now. She had to worry about other people, not to mention if she left, what would happen to her mother. How would she feel about her daughter up and leaving after just reuniting with each other? Is something bothering you, Miyamoto-san? Siko said. Rei looked at her and shook her head no. It's nothing, senpai. I just have a lot on my mind, Rei said as she started to walk around Siko. Would you stop calling me senpai? Siko said. After all we dash. Rei stopped and said. Don't ever mention it again. I don't want to remember. She then continued to walk off to look for Shizuka. Looks like you're not the only with a dark secret, right, Naruto-kun? Siko spoke to herself as she held the katana in her hand harder and continued to walk to her room to change. Airport. Rika felt numb earlier in the day. She and her partner were asked to take care of another group of undead that were in the runway again. It was a simple task, but they were called in for a different mission. It was to grab an emergency tanker of jet fuels and spray the undead and burn them alive. They managed it just fine, but her partner, who was outside, never saw the infected that was on the top of the tanker and managed to take a chunk of his leg. Her partner stayed behind and blew up the tanker and set fire to all the zombies in the area, clearing it up. He was the only casualty during the mission. She had requested that he would be promoted. Rika didn't have time to mourn the loss of her partner. She had just left a meeting with her boss to request permission to go look for her friend. She had a good feel that she could. After all, there was only a handful of people left at the airport that needed to be transported out, not counting armed forces. She really hopes that she could contact her blonde friend soon, but knowing her, she probably lost her phone. God, she needed a smoke. Rika, we need you over here. She hopes Shizuka was safe. Later. Naruto watched the clock in his room hit 6:08. Just outside his window the sun had already started to set. The way the clouds were getting darker, it was a sigh of rain. He was supposed to go to dinner with the Takagi and his group. To tell the truth, he always hated social gatherings. The blonde knew he couldn't get out of it since it was the first time in who knows how long that they eat together with other people. Everyone mostly just by themselves in their rooms. Well, for him anyways. He should get going soon. He rather get there early. Just then he could hear footsteps coming from outside. Then his door was blown wide open by both Toshimi and Misuzu. It looked like they had ran quite a distance to find him, since they were breathing and sweating heavily. If their soaked shirts clinging to their bodies were an indication. Not that he was looking. Naruto-senpai, Shido-sensei's group is here! Toshimi screamed. Their bus just came in. Naruto jumped up and was out the door before long, with both Misuzu and Toshimi following. If they were here, then it would cause a big problem. When the trio reached the lobby area, he noticed Siko, Alice, Zeke, Shizuka, Kiriko, Kyoko, and Mika there. They didn't seem aware who was here. Surprising, the first to notice him was Zeke, since he ended up barking and wagging his tail before running up to him. Then all eyes were on him. The ladies noticed that both Misuzu and Toshimi were covered in sweat, causing a few looks, a sly grin, and an unaware Alice. Oni-san, what are doing? Alice asked him, but just as he was about to answer, he saw furious Rei ran into the lobby holding her mother's spear with a heavily breathing Koda behind her. She knew. Sweetie, what are dash? Kiriko tried to ask her daughter why she had her weapon, but she was ignored and Rei was soon kicked the front door open. On the other side of those doors were Shido and his group with a man from the estate talking to each other. You will be happy to know that your dash. The man tried to finish his sentence when Rei ran up to Shido and placed the spear at his throat. Everybody was stunned at what is happening in front of them. Naruto could see real fear in Shido's eyes. Naruto's group looked shocked, except Kiriko. At seeing the snake-like teacher here, they had assumed he had died. It was then they noticed he had more people in his group, 3 middle-aged men, 2 women in her early 20s, a high school boy and a girl that looked like they were in junior high. But that wasn't it, the way the 3 new female members stayed of dress. It was apparent what had happened. Naruto felt sick to his stomach. If Rei didn't something, he will. Miyamoto-san. How good to see you. Alright, Shido said, trying to ease himself out of this situation. But all this did was cause Rei to push the spear closer to his throat. Shut up! Don't try to bullshit me. Rei spoke. Do you know how I got so good at Sujitsu? It was because my parent taught it to me. I also learned from my father, who never know failure at the prefecture police. But you put my father, no, my family through hell, Rei said, not knowing that the Takagi family, Kushina and Kakashi had showed up. You made a man who can take anything without hesitation and made him go on his knees in tears asking for forgiveness. He took all the blame because of it. I know the truth. You're the one who held me back. You're the reason why my parents got divorced. I put up with it because I was told that if all went well then you and your entire family would be put in jail. But not anymore, Ray said as the spear started to penetrate Shido's skin. Everyone looked shocked at what Ray had confessed, but it was Kakashi who took it the worst. He felt that he was kicked in the stomach. The teen had questioned Ray why she was held back a year, but he never asked more than once. He always assumed that he shouldn't get involved when it didn't involve him. So he let it pass like nothing had happened. Why you planned to kill me, the daughter of 2 police officers, would become a common killer? Shido said, causing Ray to scream. I don't hear that from somebody like you. Then kill him, Soichiro exclaimed as he made himself known to the two. Ray had turned around to see that everyone was there. The orange-haired girl looked at the intimidating man in front of her. I know this man's father. But that means nothing now. If you want to kill him. This caused an outroar from the civilians who were against Soichiro. All he did was glare at them to shout them up. Of course, if I had a cause, I would do the same. Ray began to think, should she really kill Shido? She didn't seem to notice that Kakashi tried to charge forward, wanting to stop Ray from killing the man. But Siko and Naruto grabbed him. It wasn't his decision to make. Go ahead, kill me! Kill me and live the rest of your life knowing what you had done. That would be the best lesson I could give a student like you as your teacher. Shido spoke. Ray looked at him in disgust. God. Ray looked down before she had lowered the spear from that snake's throat. She could hear the sighs of relief from a large number of the groups. She turned around and began to walk towards the building. When she had walked past Soichiro, he had asked if that was her decision. While she was still mad, she would give him that satisfaction. He is not worth killing, Ray said as she handed her mother her weapon back. Shido was shaking with rage as he began to speak when. You really shouldn't speak right now, Oni-san. At the new voice, everyone turned and noticed a man walk up to them. There was man A with slick black hair, wearing what seems to be a business attire, but what is creepy was that the man had dark brown eyes that looked pitch black and was sickly pale. Aramaki? Shido whispered, surprised his brother's appearance here of all places. Aramaki smiled as he said, After all, father would be disappointed with you. Naruto, it's him. Mika whispered to Naruto as he quickly looked at her, then to his mother when noticing her expression and clenched fist. He looked at the man and with clenched fist glared at the man. He found him. It's been 2 hours after Shido's group arrival. Unfortunately, Soichiro had allowed them to stay since the sun had set, and raining wouldn't make it safe for them to leave. Right now his group were eating with the Takagis. The atmosphere was quite tense. He could feel everyone had something on their mind. Even Zeke could feel it. The dog was laying next to Naruto, not touching his food that was left there. Every attempt to start a conversation was quickly met with silence. Soon people began to leave one after another after eating their meal. Even his mother left early. He had thought nothing of it, but soon he was left alone in the room with Zeke. Things are going to get worse, aren't they, Zeke? Naruto said as Zeke whined in response. Naruto patted the dogs on the head. He couldn't help but smile at the small dog. It's getting late, Zeke. Alice is probably worried about you. Naruto told Zeke, who seemed to understand what he was saying, but for some reason he didn't leave. Don't worry, I'll be fine. With great reluctance, Zeke left the blonde. Naruto sighed. He needs some fresh air. Standing up from his chair, left the dining room and began to walk through the dark corridors to reach the garden. As he got closer, he began to hear sounds of a faint argument. With each step he could hear it get louder. It's coming from the garden. Walking as quietly as he can, he could faintly make out their faces and what they were saying. What the hell are you doing here, Aramaki? You should be in Tokyo with father, Shido exclaimed to his younger. What I do doesn't concern you, Oni-san, Aramaki said to his older brother, making sneer. Don't call me that, you bastard. Now tell me why you're here. Shido spat at his younger brother. Aramaki glared at Shido. Well, if you must know, I'm here to get the love of my life. What the hell are talking about? It's just as I said, my dear brother, I meant the most wonderful woman a while ago, but she would always reject my advances. But that will all change very soon. Aramaki, what are dash? Only I sen, you don't have to worry about anything, everything is going to be taken care of by the end of the week. You will have a sister-in-law. I might even let you have a go at her. Naruto knew just who this person was talking about. His fist was crushing the wooden wall that he was gripping. He was barely containing his anger. It's getting late, Oni-san, besides you have to leave in the morning. So try to get some rest. Aramaki said as Shido stayed quiet. He just stood there before he slowly started to walk away. When he was too far away, Naruto then made his move. Aramaki was smoking by the koi pond, when he threw his smoke into the koi pond. I was wondering when you would come here, Aramaki said with a smirk as he turned to Naruto. I must say I expected a bit more from you. How can you be her son when you look nothing like her or even act like her? So you know why I'm here, then this will make it easy. Leave my mother alone or dash. Naruto couldn't finish as Aramaki spoke once again. Or what I might ask? Beat me until I'm black and blue? Or maybe you will break my bones? Aramaki began to laugh all of a sudden, before stopping and with a serious expression. Kid, I'm a politician, we get treats like that hourly. Besides, can you be a little more original when making a treat? Also, I won't leave your mother alone, mama's boy. Naruto's face was slowly began to turn red, his breathing heavier. It doesn't matter what you do, 'cause all I have to do is wait for the right moment to make my move. And when that happens, I will not let go. I can imagine the look of pleasure on her face when I get bunch of old men fuck her brains out. He couldn't take much more. Warning, what you are about to read is semi-graphic. Well, to me anyways, read at your own discretion, skip ahead if you don't want to read it. I will even let my father and brother have a go. I'll even record it and send you a copy and then put it on the internet. And I definitely will enjoy when I fate her in front of yo dash. Naruto couldn't take it, he snapped. He grabbed him and punched him, causing him to fall to the ground. Aramaki clenched his nose. It's broken. Then all of a sudden he was tackled into the koi pond. Aramaki gasped as he tried to breathe. Naruto grabbed him again and punched him across the face. Dunking his head back underwater, he watched as the man struggled and flailed, trying to remove Naruto from on top of his. All he could think about is to kill this man. He then brought his head from underwater and slammed it back into the water, all the way to the stone ground at the bottom of the pond. Kill, 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 kill. Naruto, using his left hand, grasped the man's nose and began to pull. Aramaki flailed as the pain of his broken nose began to stretch. The skin and nose soon reached a point where it couldn't stretch. Soon it began to give away as holes started to form around it before it was separated from Aramaki's face. Naruto stood up, allowing Aramaki to grip his now noseless face. Aramaki clenched his face, screaming as he held his face. Naruto quickly dunked the man's head under water again, before letting go and stomping on it as he tried to breathe. Aramaki began to crawl towards land, crying in pain. Please stop! Aramaki cried out as his blood was dripping down his face. No! Gripping the Aramaki's, he quickly kicked his ribs and turned him on his stomach. Gripping his right elbow with both hands and placed his left leg on his forearm. Snap! In less than a second his right arm was broken. Before he could cry out in pain, the blonde covered his mouth with both hands and began to squeeze down on his jaw. Aramaki couldn't fight back. He could hear the strain from his jaw as slowly began to bend forward. He wanted it to end. Nope. Just then Naruto felt the jawbone pierce Aramaki's skin, gripping the man's hair, and began to drag him away from the pond. Before long they reached a large rock in the ground. Smashing Aramaki's head against it, he began walk away. Aramaki felt it was over. It wasn't. Soon Naruto came back carrying a large monkey wrench. The blonde lifted the wrench over his head and smashed it down onto the man's left knee. Aramaki was unable to move. He was in too much pain. He cried as Naruto kneeled down. Aramaki could see that Naruto wasn't in control at the moment. His rage was. It was all his fault. Aramaki's cries were unheard as Naruto grabbed a shovel, began to dig. Aramaki was going to be buried alive. Read again, it wasn't that violent, well, to me. It was over. How could he? Naruto was scared. He killed someone, a living person. Oh God, this was completely different from kill a zombie. It was worse. He remembered every detail, every little detail. He wasn't in control. It was like watching somebody else do it. The blonde couldn't describe it. His hand was shaking, there was blood all over them, it was everywhere. His shirt, pants, shoes, even his socks. He began to gag, clenching his stomach before he threw up. He felt every little bit of food he had eaten leave his body. Naruto slowly stood up. He ran. It was a blur to him. He reached a bathroom in the estate. Grabbing the soap and uncapped it, dumped the whole thing on his hands. Even after all the water and soap he used, he could feel clean. He felt the skin on his hands beginning to bleed. He had to stop. He quickly tried to clean whatever he had touched and throw away everything that had blood on them. He had to get rid of his clothes. Naruto began the painful walk back to his room. He hoped that his mother was sleeping. He needed to take shower. He didn't even deserve to be in the same building as her. As he turned the knob to his room, he noticed that his mother wasn't there but in the bathroom. The shower was turned on. As soon as he closed the door, he heard her call out. "Naruto-kun? Is that you?" Kushina yelled from the bathroom. He tried to answer in his usual tone. He quickly took off his clothes and threw them into the bottom of the trash can. It was filled so no one would really look. He still couldn't calm down. He pacing in the room. He wouldn't be able to sleep. He wanted to forget. Naruto didn't know what to do. He could feel tears building up inside. His heart was racing. "Sweaty, is something wrong?" Kushina questioned him. Naruto couldn't take it. He walked inside the bathroom. He needs someone to be there for him. Kushina opened up the door to see her son naked. Normally she would be excited, but she sensed something was. "Naruto-kun?" Kushina spoke gently, as Naruto walked up to her and hugged her as he began crying out. "Ka-san." Kushina stroked her son's hair. "It's okay, sweetie, Ka-san is here," Kushina said as she and Naruto sat inside the shower. "Everything will be fine. Ka-san will always love you," Kushina said as she kissed her son's head. "No matter what." Rei couldn't sleep. Her mind kept replaying her meeting Shido. Was it the right thing to keep him alive, or should she have killed him? She couldn't even stand being in the same building as him, and she had enough reason to kill him. Rei didn't want to stoop so low as him. But a part of her had wanted to kill him, and that scared her. It made her feel a bit sick that she would kill an actual person. She had no problem when killing a zombie. Maybe that's why she ended up in front of one of the few people in around that would understand her. Raising her hand and knocked on the wooden door frame and waited. She hoped he would answer. Soon after, she heard shuffling coming from inside the room. Soon after, the door opened slightly to reveal a heavily breathing Kushina who had a noticeable blush on her face. Rei felt embarrassed and ashamed for waking up Naruto's mother. She totally forgot that the two are sharing a room. She couldn't help but look at the red-haired woman's state of dress with a look of confusion and envy. From the looks of it, she had just woken up, since she was holding a thin sheet in front of her as a barrier to cover her naked body. What did she do to keep her body looking like that? Rei did wondered if Kushina always sleep au natural. If she did, was Naruto also? Before Rei had finished her thought, she scrunched up her nose as a very odd scent hit her. Looking at Kushina, she noticed that her body was covered in sweating. Was the room hot? "Rei-chan? Is something wrong?" Kushina questioned as Rei left her thoughts alone for now. "Actually, I wanted to talk to Naruto-kun. It's kind of important," Rei said as she scratched her cheek, feeling uneasy under the older woman's gaze. "You do know that it's pretty early too." Kushina started but stopped when she saw Rei looking down. Biting her lip, Kushina turned her head to the inside of the room and turned back to the orange-haired girl. Darn her guilty conscience. "How about you meet Naruto in about 30 minutes in the lobby, so the both of you can get ready?" Kushina said. When the older woman said that, Rei couldn't help but feel happy. She nodded her head at Kushina and began to walk back to her room. Although she did wonder why Kushina would sleep naked in the same bed as her son. As she was walking away, Kushina had kept watching and waited as Rei left the hallway before she crept back into her room, closing the door behind her. As she was walking away, Rei couldn't help but be happy that she could talk to someone that understood what she was feeling. But a feeling of fear was started to appear. What if, before she could finish her thought, she saw a person at her door? Kakashi? Said person soon turned around before smiling at her. Morning, Rei, I thought that you would, well, Kakashi said as he began to scratch his cheek nervously before composing himself. But why are you up this early? You hate getting up in the morning, he said as he crossed his arms with an eyebrow raised. I needed to talk to someone about what dash. Rei stopped mid-sentence. There was no need to let Kakashi worry about this. She then continued talking. Something important. So why are you here, Kakashi? Rei then glanced at Kakashi. Are those new clothes? Why am I here, Rei? Don't you remember what I told you yesterday? Kakashi said as he stepped closer to Rei had taken a step back. She felt confused at what he had said. Kakashi, what are you talking about? I don't remember. Rei spoke before Kakashi cut her off. What do you mean you don't remember? Kakashi questioned her as he felt a bit ticked off about the fact she forgot their conversation. How could you forget something this important? How could I forget? Kakashi, a lot of fucking shit has happened yesterday, so how about telling me what the fuck are talking about? Rei shouted at her childhood friend who was pissing her off. She was feeling extremely frustrated about everything that was happening these past few days. Kakashi was not helping her. I want to know, are you going to dash? Kakashi began to ask Rei about running away with him but stopped when he heard a door open up with Rei's mother on the other side. What are you guys yelling about so early in the morning? Kiriko said as she rubbed her eyes awake, with a disgruntled look on her face. Rei was happy that her mother was at least wearing a robe. She'd rather not have her mother flash her naked body for all to see. While Kakashi looked away from Kiriko with a blush before he said, Nothing apparently. Kakashi said with a disheveled look on his face before he began to walk away. Rei bit her lip before grabbing Kakashi's arm, stopping him in his tracks. Looking back at Rei. I'll talk to you later, okay? With that, Rei had let go of his arm. Kakashi gave a hesitant nod before walking with a small smile on his face. He still had one person to meet. Rei-chan, what's going on out here? Kiriko asked her daughter, who sighed and looked towards her. To be honest, I don't know. Do you mind if I take a shower first, Ka-san? I need to meet Naruto later, Rei said as her mother nodded her head. Just don't take too long, I need to take one before I meet Yuriko, Kiriko said as she went to go back to their shared bed. Rei looked at her mother before asking, Why do you need to meet Yuriko-san? Kiriko just said, It's nothing really, it's just about something we talked about yesterday. With that, Kiriko went back to sleep. Rei sighed again, knowing that she wouldn't get anything out of her mother. So she just grabbed her towel and went to take a bath. Naruto wasn't feeling good when his mother sent him to meet Rei. Heck, to be honest, he wasn't feeling ever since yesterday. All he wanted to do was sleep, but with his mother in his room that would be impossible at the moment, and decide he was needed at the moment. He didn't know why Rei wanted to speak to him about, but all he knew was that it had to be important to wake someone up early. Naruto grunted as he reached the lobby, and saw that Rei wasn't here yet. Maybe he could close his eyes for a bit. When he sat down at a nearby lobby chair, he closed his eyes, crossed his arms, and waited to drift off. But just as he began to drift off, he had jolted up as a cold sweat began to dripping down his body. Damn it! Naruto began to run his hand through his hair when he saw someone coming down the stairs. Standing up, he began to walk off to meet the person. Morning, Naruto-kun. I hope I didn't make you wait long, Rei asked the blonde with a smile, who returned it well, a small one at the least. Don't worry about it, Naruto said. Truthfully, he doesn't even know what time it is or how long he has been down here. So what is it you want to talk about? Naruto asked as he went back to the chairs in the lobby and sat back down at his previous seat. Rei followed his example and sat down across from him. Well, you know about what happened with Shido yesterday. Naruto flinched slightly as he heard her say Shido. How could he forget about his brother? Shit! Will Shido figure out about him killing his half-brother? Would Shido come after him? Rei. The other people in his group, or worst, his mother? Clenching his hands into a fist as he tried to force his anger away. You're one of the few people who I can actually trust and cares about my feelings. That's so, well, I want your honest opinion. Naruto looked up in surprise as he didn't know that Ray held him in high respect. Did you think I should have let Shido live? No, Shido needs to die. Naruto quickly answered in response, making Ray jump in surprise in the blonde's response, but felt sad that he didn't approve of her choice. So I should have killed him? Ray spoke softly in sadness. No, you shouldn't. Okay, she was officially confused. Then what is it? What should have I done? Should I have killed him or not? Ray stated as she looked at Naruto. No. You made the right choice, Ray. It's just, yes, Shido doesn't deserve to live. But he was right about one thing, Ray. Naruto paused as he tried to find the right words for what he wanted to say next. You shouldn't have to suffer knowing that you took a living person's life. Not even someone as vile as the fucking snake pedophile fungus of a teacher. No matter how much you think you are ready to take a person's life, you still aren't ready. No matter how much mentally prepared you are, thinking and doing are two different things, Ray. Naruto said as he looked at Ray before giving a small smile. What you did took a lot of self-control. Something I wish I had. Naruto placed his hand on Ray's hand, causing the girl to blush slightly at the contact. Ray, please don't regret the choice you made. Because you will never be ready for what's on the other side of that fence. Naruto said before he stood up and began to walk off when he heard Ray call back to him. Naruto-kun, thank you for that, Ray said as she smiled at him. You don't know how much that meant to me. And with that, Ray stood up and headed back to her room with a great weight lifted from her shoulders. Naruto watched as Ray left before he said to himself, No, Ray, you shouldn't thank me. I don't deserve such praise. Naruto began to walk off back to his room. A little bit earlier, Siko knew that the moment she woke up that something bad was going to happen. She only had this feeling twice. The day she was almost fapped by that drunk man, and the day of outbreak. There was no reason to doubt it. It was then she heard a rather hard knock on her door. Siko wondered who it was. She was lucky she had already dressed up so she didn't have to waste any time answering the door. When she opened the door, she was surprised to see Kakashi-kun? What are you doing here? Siko asked her underclassman, who looked angry at something. Don't time you forgot too, Kakashi said as the anger in his voice was evident. Siko was confused at what Kakashi just said before it hit her. Oh yeah. That, Siko said as she looked away from Kakashi. I need your help, Siko-senpai. Please, Kakashi said as bowed his head a bit. Siko couldn't help but feel that she was put in a tough spot. While she respected Kakashi's fighting skill and while she didn't approve of him leaving the group, it was ultimately his choice. Now he was asking her to join him. It was a bit much. Kakashi-kun, I can't just leave the group. Naruto is my closest friend. I won't abandon him for anything, Siko said as she bowed her head. I'm truly sorry, but I have to decline your offer. Kakashi stood quiet as Siko apologized, mentally sighing he should expected this to happen. After all, the two are really close, but he didn't know why he felt as if he'd been stabbed in the chest. I see, Siko-senpai, if you change your mind, tell me. Okay, I will be leaving in the evening, Kakashi said before he went to walk off to anywhere to blow off some steam. Kakashi grumbled as he walked through the halls of the Takagi estate. It looked like he would be the only leaving the group at this rate. He knew for a fact that Mika wouldn't go anywhere without Naruto if she was anything like Siko. Ray was a maybe Koda as well, but he looked up to Naruto as a leader, so he more would go if Naruto asked him, so he was out. Tashimi and Misuzu were stuck together like glue and wouldn't leave without the other, not to mention they aren't likely to leave a large, more safe group for his. The same would apply for Shizuka-sensei and Kyoko-sensei. Saya is a big no after finally reuniting with her parents, so wouldn't even give the thought of leaving the group for him. It looked like he would be the only leaving. He would admit Kakashi was jealous of Naruto. He was friends with the sexy women like Siko and Miku. His dyed friend Morita would have loved to have seen Siko in that apron thong combo. Wait, he should stop think about Siko like that, even if he was lucky that he seen as much as he did. I need some sleep, Kakashi exclaimed as he rubbed his temples as he felt a headache coming his way. But as he made his way towards his room, He then noticed out of the corner of his eye outside the window below him was a group of men crowed around the garden. What the hell? Kakashi turned fully towards the group. He could tell that the men were in a panic but couldn't tell what was being said as there were too many voices to hear properly. One of the men were removing the koi fish from the pond. Which was odd, but why were? It was then Kakashi saw a rather large pool of blood in the center of the crowed me. He quickly looked away, it couldn't be right. When he turned back he knew that it was real, and he realized the reason why the man was taking the fish from the pond. 'Cause the pool wasn't filled with just water. Holy! Kakashi couldn't finish what he was saying as he felt vomit come up his throat. He quickly covered his mouth to prevent it from coming out. He ran towards the nearest bathroom with the knowledge that he'd just witnessed a murder scene. But an even scarier thought was that the killer was someone at the estate. Yuriko had not expected this when she had been woken up early and escorted down to the garden. She was disappointed that her lover didn't visit her, but quite a bit happened yesterday. When she had arrived it was clear that someone was killed. She felt sick. Why did this had to happen now, just when the other group of people were trying to fight Sachiro's group for leadership? Sighing out loud as she watched one of her ex-husband's men digging up the freshly made grave. She wanted to leave the grave site, but someone had to be here, so Ichiro was getting any information he can about what happened. Kiriko was off by the garden helping the others with her police experience, and Kushina didn't need to be involved just yet. Her eyes began to wander as couldn't help but notice that this place was rather out of the way from the estate. God, she hoped there was some more wine waiting for her up at the estate. Looks like it's going to rain again, she commented as she noticed the darkening sky above her. Yuriko quickly asked the man to dig faster, it wouldn't help them in the slights when it started to pour. With a quick nod the man went back to work as the dirt began to pile up on the side. Takagi-sama, I think I found something. Yuriko quickly made her way towards the edge of the hole. Soon a rather disgusting smell hit her nostrils, putting her hand up trying to prevent the smell from reaching her nose. She couldn't look, the sight before her was horrible. Whoever the person was, it would be near impossible to identify him based on his looks. After all, how can they figure out who it was, with the guy's skull crushed like that? Looks like whoever the poor bastard was didn't die quickly, the guy said before he leaned down. It seems like they were buried alive. He suffocated to death. Is there anything in his pockets? When she asked, he leaned down and began digging through the pockets. Soon produced two objects, a pocket watch and a simple leather wallet. Handing the wallet to Yuriko, the man decided to keep searching the body. When Yuriko opened the wallet, she noticed two things: the diverse license of Aramaki Shido, and what scarred her the most was that this person had a picture of Kushina in a beautiful black dress. The same one she had wore at Sachiro's birthday party last year. Soon a feeling of dread began to fill her, as she realized what must have happened. Naruto-kun, what happened? Yuriko thought as she crushed the picture in her hand. The first thing popped in her mind was to find her godson and made sure he was alright. Did Kushina know what he did? What the hell is this? Yuriko looked down to see the man holding a small bottle of clear liquid and a wrapped-up syringe. What the hell was he going to do with that? Hearing a knock on the door to her shared bedroom, Kushina groaned before she made her way to the door. She hoped that it was her son, but it's some of Sachiro's men. Did they found out what happened? Were they here for her beloved son? She could feel sweat beginning to drip from her forehead. Sorry to disturb you, Uzumaki-sama, but the boss wanted to inform you that no one is allowed outside of the building until further notice. Kushina stood silent. Oh, thank God. Naruto was safe for the time being. She then nodded her head in acknowledgement. The men gave a quick bow and began left to inform the other residents. When the man was out of sight, Kushina gave a sigh in relief. At least he didn't question her about anything. Ka-san. Kushina turned her head to see her son a few feet away from her. What did he talk to you about? Naruto asked as he scratched the back of his head. Don't worry, sweetie. He just told me that we are not allowed to leave the building for now. They don't know, Kushina said, reassuring Shi-san, who gave a stiff nod before he entered their room. Naruto quickly took off his shirt and collapsed head first on the bed. Kushina sat down next to her son as she ran her hand through his hair, glancing at his shoulder as she noted that the wound had closed up nicely. She was thankful for the fact it didn't become worse. Naruto-kun, please, look at me, Kushina said. Naruto didn't say a word. I know it's hard, but please, we need to talk. I don't want to talk about it, Naruto stated as he buried his head into the bed. Why did he have to be so stubborn about his feeling? Naruto, you need to talk about this. It's the only way for this to go away. Kushina knew firsthand what it was like to kill a person. It wasn't an easy thing to deal with. She was lucky to have time to deal with it. Naruto didn't. I just want to forget, Naruto said as turned his head to the side to look at his mother, who nodded her head in understanding. She then laid down next to him, before she wrapped her arms around him. I know, sweetie. Ka-san knows all too well, Kushina said before she closed her eyes and kissed her son on the lips. She would help her son no matter what, if she indulged herself in her greatest desire at the same time. Bonus. As Kushina was removing her son's pants, she didn't realize that she forgot to lock the door. Unfortunately for them, luck wasn't on their side, as the door was soon opened up, allowing the person on the other side a decent view of the action inside the room. Within a few seconds the door closed, allowing the mother-son their privacy, for now. 5 p.m. Saya was pissed, no beyond pissed. First she was told that she wasn't allowed to leave her own house. When she questioned her father about it, he just dismissed her. Her mother was busy doing who knows what, and when she gathered the members of her group to find out that no one had seen Naruto since yesterday. Except for Rei, who decided to keep that part a secret to avoid Saya's wrath. Where the hell is that bastard? Saya screamed, as she pawed back and forth in the lobby as everyone around her just stared. Takagi-san, you shouldn't curse so loud, Kyoko said as she was pressing her hands against Alice's ears to prevent the girl from hearing Saya curse their blonde leader. Well, excuse me, sensei, Saya screamed. Actually, I'm kind of worried about Naruto-senpai, Misuzu said as she timidly put her hand up. Me too, Naruto-senpai could be in trouble, Kota said as he held the group's guns in his arms. After what happened, there is no way in hell they're leaving his side. Miku-san and Siko-san, do any of you know anything? Toshimi asked the two people closest to the blonde. They shook their head no. He seemed fine when I left him yesterday, Siko said with her hand on her chin in thought. Maybe he just tired. You know that he likes to take naps. He is probably somewhere quiet to sleep, Mika said. While that was true, she knew that Naruto slept for a few hours and that he could disappear when wanted to. Did you check his room? Shizuka commented before her thoughts began to drift off. Wasn't she forgetting something? No, he wasn't there when I checked an hour, Saya said as she felt her head pounding. She hoped he was alright, even if she was mad at him for what he did. Then why can't she bring herself to hate him? Even after all that happened, she still loved him, but there was no way in hell she was going to say that out loud. Maybe we should give him some space, Kakashi said as he felt everyone's eye fall on him. Why did he have to open his mouth? The only reason he came down was to find out if Rei wanted to leave the group. No offense, but maybe he just busy. He has to be inside the estate, he probably with his mother or something. Just leave him be. Yeah, maybe, but something isn't right, Saya said before she walked outside the building. She was right. Saya was always right. No one wanted to admit it, but they knew something was happening, but they just don't know what. Don't make me go, please! A woman screamed out. Saya looked to see who it was to realize that she was one of the people that came with Shido. Why were three of her father's men doing to her? Feeling curious and confused, she began to walk over to them to sort this thing out. Hey you! Saya yelled out, causing the group of three to look at her two guys and surprise the other with a look of hope. Oh, sorry Takagi-sama, we didn't see you. The men quickly bowed to their boss's daughter. Is there something you need from us? Yeah, there is. Just what do you guys think you're doing to her? Saya questioned them. The two men looked at each other before looking back at Saya. Sorry, Takagi-sama, but we're ordered to escort out the group that came in yesterday. Saya felt a little surprised. First, no one was allowed to leave the estate. She and her group weren't allowed outside the building, and now her father was forcing people out. Why did he order that? Saya said with her voice raising in volume, causing the people around them to notice the conversation. I'm sorry, but were informed to not tell anyone. And with that, the guys grabbed the woman's arm and began to drag her back to the bus where the rest of her group was at. Saya clenched her fist in anger. Just what the hell was her father doing? It'd take a genius to figure out what Shido did to the women in his group. She felt sick when she saw one of her ex-classmates touching the male junior high student. It didn't help that he looked like he was going to cry when another male student decided to join in the touching. Saya truly felt sorry for the victims of Shido's group. "Takagi-san, are you going to be okay?" Kyoko said, as she walked up to the pink-haired girl before placing a hand on the girl's shoulders. Saya quickly shrugged the hand off, before turning around to see the group outside behind Kyoko. Looking away to avoid looking weak, quickly shaking her head. "Saya, please, you can't lie to me. I was a guidance counselor before. I know when something is troubling someone. You can talk to us, we're here for you, okay?" And with that, Kyoko began to walk away when she saw something that caught her eye. "Is that Yuriko, Kuriko, Kushina, and Naruto?" Kyoko thought, what could they be talking about, but before she could do anything, Shizuka then squealed, distracting her from what she saw. "I did it! I did it!" Shizuka said as she began to bounce up and down, causing her boobs with her, making Kakashi and Kota blush with huge perverted grin on their faces, wondering one thing: was she wearing a bra under that tight turtleneck? Rei couldn't help Saya Takashi's behavior, but why wasn't she bothered by it? As Rei was in her own world, Shizuka couldn't pump her fist in joy. Shizuka quickly grabbed Alice, who was holding Zeke, and began crushing the two into her large ample fist. "Lucky," Takashi muttered before he was elbowed by Toshimi and Misuzu, who didn't appreciate the comment. "What did you remember, sensei?" Toshimi said while glaring at the boys in the group. "Does Kota have a nosebleed?" "I remember my friend's cell phone number," Shizuka said, hugging Alice even harder, causing her and Zeke to whine from the added pressure. "Since I didn't have my own cell phone or my address book with me, I couldn't remember it until now." "Wait, isn't that the person who had all these guns and the Humvee?" Kota asked in excitement in the fact that he could get to meet the woman who is into guns as much as him, and if she was anything like Shizuka, then she would be the perfect woman for him. "Sorry, Saya, but Kota just found a new girl." "And not really?" "Yep. She in the special forces of the prefectural police. Since she's a member of the SAT, she must still be alive. If we can meet up with her, it'd be amazing," Shizuka said before she released Alice to jump in joy again. "What is amazing?" Kuriko said as she walked towards the group with Kushina and Naruto. Zeke began to wag his tail and barked happily in Alice's arms at the new arrivals. Alice gave her Oni-san a big smile before running up to him to say hi. "Ka-san? Why are you here?" Rei said before she looked at Kushina and Naruto, who had her arm around her son's arm. They must be real close to do that, although she was surprised that Naruto was embarrassed by the show of affect. "Oh, I just saw Shizuka-san jumping and wondered what was going on," Kuriko said before she could say anything else. Shizuka noticed Naruto and ran towards him. "Naruto Kyuen! I did it! I remembered my friend's number," Shizuka said as she began to hug him, pushing him into her fist, breaking Kushina's hold on her son's arm. Jealousy soon filled the air as Siko, Miku, Kyoko, Misuzu, Kushina, Saya, and surprisingly Rei glared at Shizuka. No one seemed to notice Rei's glare except for two people, her mother and Takashi. Well, isn't his interesting, so Yuriko was right about her, Kuriko thought with a smile, as she began to think back to her earlier talk with Yuriko. Too bad, she would have enjoyed what the two planned. "What is that about?" Takashi thought as Rei continued to glare, as Shizuka quickly dismissed them as she released the hug she was giving before she began to talk again. "Naruto-kun, can I borrow your phone? Please?" Shizuka said as Naruto stood silent before he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, then handed it to her. Grabbing the phone, she then began to dial a couple of numbers before pressing the call button. Placing the phone on her ear, she then waited. Before even the first ring, the call was quickly answered. "Hello?" Rika said, hesitant, but not too long after Shizuka began to talk. "Rika, is that you? You're alive?" Shizuka asked with tears in her eye, relieved that her best friend was still alive. Causing everyone around to smile, happy for the blonde nurse, even Naruto gave a small smile before it fell. "I'm alive too. I've been through hell, Rika." Enough of that, Shizuka! Where are you right now? Are still at my pad? Rika yelled on the other end. Oh, sorry, but that place has been lost. And we ended up borrowing your guns. I'm really sorry. Shizuka apologized, but Rika quickly waved it off. Don't worry about that, I'm just glad you're fine. But where are you at now? Rika said, trying to get her friend back on topic. Oh, we are at the Takagi estate, but we are leaving in a few dash. Shizuka couldn't finish before a large flash of light came from the darkening sky, followed by a large boom. Shizuka quickly removed the phone from her ear when a large static sound started to come from the phone. Did the batteries die? Shizuka questioned. What she didn't realize that things are about to get worse. Rika cursed out loud when she saw that her phone no longer worked. Shit, this was bad. She quickly heard someone scream, turning around to see what was going. Oh shit. What Rika saw was an airplane start to take a dive downwards towards the ground. If she was correct, that was the last citizen evacuation flight. Soon after that thought reached her mind, the plane stroked the ground. The airplane cockpit ended up caving in on itself, no doubt in her mind, killing the pilots inside it. The wings of the plane began to scrap against the ground, tearing a large hole on the concert runway. Before she knew it, the plane soon exploded. For Rika, the rest of what happened was a blur. It was ironic, since earlier in the day she had watched a weird American movie called Final Destination. She sat down against the wall. Why did this have to happen? Reaching into her vest pocket and fished out a cigarette and lighted it. As she took a drag, she then grabbed a bunch of papers that was next to her and read it to see if it was in order. The Takagi estate, huh? Who know you would make a powerful ally while I was gone, Shizuka. Don't worry, Shizuka, I will be there as soon as I can, Rika said before she stood up and began to walk towards the temporary office of her boss, with only one intention on her mind. Chapter end.
Now watch daily exclusive uncensored lemon stories and mature content, along with NSFW images, featuring harem girls characters from the fics. Access all this and more on my Patreon. Click the link in the description to explore.